Hello! And welcome to episode 55 of Modern Media Review, the non-celebrity podcast that, just like Boris Johnson, is not afraid of multiple U-turns. Sorry to say that we signed off last week and the podcast before that, and probably the one before that, frankly promising one thing only to deliver something quite different.
Yes.
I'm Robin Gibson.
And I'm Sean Gollogly. Frankly, Robin, I'm doing a mea culpa here. Although, unlike Matt Hancock, I've not done anything illegal, or like Boris, misled the Queen. But like Matt, I won't be resigning, Robin, despite being woefully out of touch with my brief. And
Your brief?
My brief, not my briefs. That's a whole different ballgame. Which is frankly a convoluted and pretentious way of admitting that I didn't give Dancing on Ice the full attention it deserved last week.
I don't know how much attention it does deserve.
That is true. But you called me out on it last time, and you've guilted me into watching the full 2 hours for the quarters and the semi-finals, which now is serpent rivaling in the sheer length of watching 2 times 2, no less, hours that is. But the upside, Robin, is that hosted by Holly Willoughby, hashtag National Treasure, and Philip Schofield, hashtag National Treasure. So massive bonus there. But I wonder, just about that, being national treasures, do they have to take separate limos to the show? You know, I was just thinking, a bit like the royal family, where the monarch and the heir can't travel together, because if those two went down, Middle England would go into a Prosecco-fueled meltdown, and especially if it was caused by a Molotov thrown by Torval and Dean, say.
I don't think it's likely that anyone's going to take out Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield, no matter how long the show is. And I think it's long in both the old sense of the word and the new sense.
Yes, absolutely. But I knew, and this is one of the reasons why we've come back to Dancing on Ice, and we're going to talk about The Circle as well, is that you were secretly intrigued by Dancing on Ice.
Well, not really. I've now watched the quarter and the semi-final, and I'm very disappointed and not intrigued at all. I mean, I like the ice skating, but there's just so much claptrap and shouting and banging. I mean, it makes Gordon Ramsay's bank balance look like BBC Parliament.
Have you watched any of that bank balance?
Only about 30 seconds. It was too noisy.
Oh, man. I mean, I know it's hard to miss, as it seems to be on every night from what I can see, but Gordon loves it, which is the main thing. He's the host. He's also, I don't know if you know, the executive producer, and coincidentally, it's also made by Studio Ramsay. So, Robin, a triple ka-ching on your licence fee.
Yeah, and there'll probably be a range of salad dressings issued to accompany it, yeah?
Exactly. Which would also, that should help keep the lockdown escape bolt hole in Cornwall financed, if not the staff in his restaurants.
No, he's not so keen on staffing his restaurants.
No, not unless, you got to lay them off early doors.
They're not that necessary.
No.
Not when you've got a TV franchise to keep going. Anyway, I've heard that bank balance is facing the axe. I put that in inverted quote marks, as the Daily Mail puts it. Facing the axe.
I do like that.
Ratings are dropping faster than Dancing on Ice, apparently. What I read was that the viewers have lambasted it. That's another thing they say.
I like that.
On social media for what they call annoying contestants, confusing rules, and cringe-worthy banter.
Nobody wants cringe-worthy banter, Robin. We found that out.
That goes for a lot of TV shows, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe if they just set it up so they didn't have annoying contestants, confusing rules, and cringe-worthy banter, the ratings might get better. Anyway, facing the axe or not, as you know, I only really watch Dancing on Ice to watch Lady Leisha, who's one of my favourite rappers. And
absolutely. But Dancing on Ice is a tough one, and I appreciate that you are puritanical in your love of the dance and skating interpreting. It's tough because you've got to have some skills. Ice skating, certainly not one of mine. Do you remember? You probably didn't go down where I went, which was down at Richmond and Streatham ice rinks.
No, Irvine Magnum Leisure Centre. That's where we went.
Irvine Magnum?
Yeah, it's been demolished now. It was just called Magnum. It was before the ice cream.
Maybe they named the ice cream after it.
Maybe.
But I just remember my time at the ice skating disco largely involved clinging onto the rail, desperately clinging onto the rail at the side of the rink, which it definitely wasn't a cool look and that ensured zero contact with the hot cool kids. I mean, I guess it was a bit Bambi on ice, but I guess unlike Bambi's mum, Robin, I didn't get shot. Although as any male online reader will point out, that was probably a fluke in London.
Yeah, well, anyway, first I think we need to deal with Lady Leisure because she got booted off.
She was booted off.
Unfairly, I'd say.
Okay.
I mean, we can look at the public vote in a bit because we both feel that had certain nuances, don't we, that were... nuances that were discernible to even a mildly two-eyed viewer.
Exactly.
With cataracts. But first, I think we've got to exonerate Torval and Dean, even though they finally spun her off the ring. Torval and Dean, I've heard, that might be climate change deniers and anti-vaxxers and anarchist Molotov chuckers.
What?
And ringleaders, I've heard, of a sinister insider TV cult that's out to replace CBeebies with Open University repeats and get Piers Morgan off the telly. I mean, they might be all these things.
Back on the telly, Robin.
If they are all these things, they might be making some progress, but skating is their business, isn't it? It's their primary thing.
Absolutely.
Just as much as used cars as Philip Schofield. And they had every right to find for Colin Jackson.
Okay.
Even if he skated like a nervous Teletubby in the skate-off compared to Leisure. It's their prerogative, isn't it?
It is their prerogative. And I guess we must add the hashtag national treasure to Torval and Dean.
Yes.
But I don't know which rabbit hole you've been going down, Robin, accusing them of being anti-vaxxers, because...
I just made it all up.
Fair enough.
It was just to have some balance.
Well, I was going to say, you're not going to get away with attacking Olympic gold medalists Jane Torval and Christopher Dean here, mate, because that pair, they weaved magic with their bolero routine in Sarajevo, Robin. Single-handedly choreographing, and I'm going to just paint a picture for you, choreographing the love-making rituals of 1980s British suburbia, and choreographing it in all just over 4 minutes.
Yes, I think I preferred Rita, Sue and Bob too.
Classic film, that. But put it this way, and if they were to chuck petrol bombs, they'd do it fully costumed. Probably in the style of their... Do you remember the Barnum and Bailey routine? Although, obviously, former police officer Christopher Dean would then feel compelled to arrest himself, probably quite roughly, and then to beat a confession out of Jane.
Yeah, I think we're probably talking of rabbit holes. This vilification of Torval and Dean as climate change deniers, anti-vaxxers, Molotov chuckers, cult ringleaders, and out-of-order police officers. Probably we better leave it there, I think. But
leave that.
I still think it's a bit of a travesty that Leisha got kicked off because she just got the first full 40 top score for that routine with a kitchen chair.
Yeah.
And I find it hard enough to sit on a chair in the kitchen without falling off on a normal floor. So you can see how difficult the skating routine must be.
Exactly.
Okay, so the judges liked them, but then you come round to the public vote, and this is what I thought had a certain Daily Mail feel to it.
Other publications equally as guilty.
Yeah, but she was joint top in points when they opened the phone lines.
Yeah.
And then the so-called public trashed her.
What do you mean the so-called public?
And Colin Jackson.
People like that.
I suspect that if the Mail polled the readers on Lady Leisure, they'd recommend she was stripped of her title. Not just Lady, but the proper one, the BEM.
BEM? What's that then?
Yeah, British Empire Medal. She got that last year or the year before. I can't remember. Anyway, it's too complicated to go into. Services to music, charity and celebrity TV shows, I think. Anyway, completely weirdly, the public vote put Leisha and Colin Jackson bottom. And the other two, whatever they're called, Sonny Boy.
Sonny J.
And the Coronation Street person, top. Now, you think that if anyone at ITV was woke or even mildly awake, they might have tweaked that vote a bit, mightn't they? And there's no way anyone's going to come in and demand to see the real results under a Freedom of Information request, is there?
Hold on a minute, Robin. Hold on.
No, wait a minute. It seems to me, right, that after watching that public vote every week, she trailed in after being really popular with the judges. I reckon if you put a public vote for top world footballer and framed it up as, Kylian Mbappe, Sadio Mane, Charlie Austin and Dylan Connolly.
Okay.
Austin and Connolly would win and Mbappe and Mane would have to do a keepy-uppy against each other for third spot. Do you see what I'm saying here?
I do.
Or comedians, Richard Ayoade, Lenny Henry and the Chuckle Brothers. You know, the Chuckle Brothers would be in the final against each other.
I'm actually very touched there that you've put in Super Charlie Austin, whose Terrace song, incidentally, is to the great and underrated Eurodance act 2 Unlimited's No Limit.
Yeah, the point is...
So
he's just a cipher.
It would be Chaz Austin and Mbappe in a keepy-uppy face-off. But I know where you're coming from, and I know the point you're making.
But you can't begrudge the view in public a bit of, closet bigotry, can you?
Okay.
It's a major British hobby. Just don't mention it when you're on mic, or you're going to end up like Gordon Brown. Ruined.
But, well, yes.
Do you think we've made ourselves clear without being...
I think we were one-eyed, sufficiently one-eyed rather than two-eyed enough about that, Robin, definitely. But I was just thinking about dancing on ice. There was some...
I'm glad you were thinking about it, because otherwise this podcast would be going off the rails pretty quickly.
Plenty of time for that. There was admirable cross-pollinisation from Philip Schofield, hashtag National Treasure Robin, who I don't know if you noticed managed a tremendous triple kerching.
I did notice.
By co-hosting the show, coining it in the ad breaks, thanks to some Hancock-esque sponsorship with WeBuyAnyCar.com, whilst then shamelessly plugging himself and Holly, hashtag National Treasure, on the next day's This Morning show.
Well, I had a look at this because I looked him up in connection to WeBuyAnyCar.com. It was funny because the first one of the Google things people ask was, does Philip Schofield own WeBuyAnyCar.com? So he's really cemented his relationship in the public imagination.
Absolutely.
And the more I see the ads, the more I like to think of him actually checking your car. Like going around kicking the sills to see if you've plugged them up with polyfill and sort of haggling over the price. And then I thought, did they actually buy any car? I don't believe that.
Okay.
I mean, those We Buy Any House sites for completely desperate people who've defaulted in the mortgage. You can see them buying any house because you can redevelop any property even if it's a pile of rubble. But the cars, suppose it's just scrap. Do they pay the scrap price minus a tenner? I looked into it a bit more, and there's another.
You have looked into it a bit more.
Yeah, there's a competitor called We Want Any Car.
I like that.
We'll have any car. We could do one, and start buying one car, sell it for a profit, and then build up from there. We're in the wrong business, mate. Anyway, We Want Any Car actually says on their website, we are not called We Want Any Car for nothing.
No.
Yeah, so maybe they're the best, and you might get a better price because they don't have to line Schofield's pockets, do they? But actually, when you look at the small print, it says the car has to be roadworthy.
Ugh.
So it's all a con.
Yeah, the world is a con, Robin. I mean, you should be working that out by now.
Anyway, never mind that. I don't know. I really don't know if I'm going to watch the final.
Oh.
Because, my whole view of the British ice skating / light entertainment scene has gone on one of those sombrero-style curves, isn't it?
I'm just visualising.
Peaked about 2/3 of the way through the semi-final, then troughed about 10 minutes later.
Okay.
Also, they're running one of those competitions, aren't they?
Oh, yes.
We've got to text in, with 2 million other people to win 120,000 quid. And you know how you enter by text?
Yeah.
So it's text costs £2 plus something or other plus something else.
Yeah, massively bugging.
I noticed he'd slipped a little gag into the small print at the bottom of the screen. Entries for phone and text close on March 29, but the postal entries close on April the 1st. I mean, everyone knows the postal entries are a waste of a stamp, but that really is taking a piss, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, calling you a fool in a very subtle way. But I'm glad you mentioned the P.O. box office option for competitions, Robin, because it is a little obsession of mine, this. They run them across the whole network. I mean, This Morning do it, Loose Women do it, even ITV Racing do it, where you can win a holiday in Dubai and go to the races. But you always have to do, like you say, the £2 text things. But then they do have to give you a freebie option. And you know me, I always like a freebie. And this is also something you haven't probably noticed that I do. The P.O. box address that they give for tight-ass, non-paying types like me, it's always in Derby, and it's the same place in Derby. And I've often wondered... Yeah, I have. I've often wondered what it's like, because obviously it can't be some little post office box with thousands of these letters from tight asses like me. So it's got to be some sort of massive warehouse. And
I don't think so. I don't think anyone enters by post. They know they're not going to win.
Well, it would be a bit of a tall order for, say, one little guy having to pull the one postcard out of the paper mountain, wouldn't it?
Do you think they go to all that trouble of drawing one postcard and then putting it in another drawer with the text and another drawer with the phones?
Robin, are you going to tell me there's no Santa Claus next?
They just pick the first one that comes to hand.
What? Oh.
They just stick a finger in one of the texts and that's it. It's not a proper draw like the lottery, mate.
Well, I thought it was a job creation scheme, really. A bit like, well, since we've had Brexit, and obviously we're not going to have any butter mountains anymore, and certainly no milk lakes, that maybe this fella he'd be in charge of the new paper mountain. He could maybe sell it to the newspapers that people don't, but newspaper publishers. Because people don't buy newspapers anymore, and not even chippies buy it anymore. I don't know, I'm digressing.
Mind all that.
I'm digressing.
Before we stop for a minute to do some promotional activity, who's going to win the final? Quickly, because I've got no idea.
I think it's got to be Colin Jackson. Oh no, he's gone, isn't he? Blimey.
No, he's not gone. He's still in it.
I'd like to see Colin win it.
Okay, but he's not very good, is he?
Well, it's a little bit like everything. It's the taking part, Robin.
Okay, and on that note, we can stop here and advise people to take part.
Absolutely, like your link.
Yeah, so if you like the podcast, feel free, in fact, feel compelled to leave a rating or a review wherever you're listening to it. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Don't know if you can leave a rating on Spotify, but never mind. Follow us on Spotify. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube. It all helps us.
Absolutely.
And you, because you'll feel more involved.
Absolutely.
And you can also check out the website, modernmediareview.com, and all the rest of it. That's it. I can't be bothered doing any more of this.
I like that plug-in, Robin. It was very Trainspotting-esque. Follow that, instead of choose life, it was follow this, follow that. I like that.
Yeah, okay, good. Anyway.
Do you want to stop there?
No, we're going to the circle.
Okay.
Which also, this is the new celebrity charity one, which is on right now.
Ah, superb!
You've watched it, haven't you?
Yes, I love the circle. I love the circle.
Well, also, it's the new celebrity charity effort. Also features Lady Leisha.
She's very busy.
Who knows how they're going to turf out all these so-called celebrities out of the house in a week? I suppose they could do it on Gormless lack of perception. They'd clear them out pretty quickly. Because virtually all of them are struggling to separate fantasy from reality, aren't they? And failing terribly to identify who's real and who's fake.
I guess that's one of the sort of problems that goes with the job of celebrity, isn't it, really? Separating the real from the fantasy. Because what you've realised is that they are very susceptible to anything. You just mention one thing and they believe it. Mention the exact opposite 2 seconds later and they believe it. But the major problem for these celebs is that, unlike you and I, Robin, they haven't been following this, and they're not as prepped as the proper contestants that come into the circle. So what the celebs are finding, as they've failed to prepare, is that they have intrinsically prepared to fail.
Yes, that all sounds very philosophical.
Sort of. Because you've got to realise that one of the main things about, obviously, as people who follow the show will know, is that if you're going to be a catfish, you've got to have at least some working knowledge of your chosen catfish persona.
Yes.
Now, for instance, I'm not dissing Lady Leisha because I know you're a fan, but she didn't know that her chosen subject, who is Big Nasty, she didn't know that he speaks Spanish.
Ah, yeah, I know, but last night she covered over that by knowing who he'd been on Celebrity. Didn't even know this thing existed. Is it Coach Trip?
Coach Trip, yeah, brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Well, she knew all about that, even though she guessed it, apparently.
I know, but...
Well, I don't even believe she could guess that. She must have known it.
Well, did you notice last night, unlike the night before, that she was actually reading a book on Big Nasty?
Well, she was reading it the night before as well.
Oh, was she? She probably hadn't got to the bit where he spoke Spanish by then.
No. Anyway, it's become very complicated because unlike the normal people, and when it's the normal circle or just normal people, none of them know each other, whether they're real or false. But in this, some of these celebs know each other.
Yes.
And some of them know the fake celebs, and some of them know the real ones.
Well, there was one, this is so bizarre. The 2 women from Loose Women that are on there?
I do now.
Kay Adams and Nadia Sawalha, who are posing as Gemma Collins. One of the questions that they were asked, people are trying to find out about each other, so they ask leading questions, one of which was, which of the celebrities shit themselves live on TV?
Yes.
Well, they admitted to shitting themselves live on TV. when, as we all know, Robin, it was Duncan from Blue.
Well, I didn't know that.
No, I didn't either. But Duncan from Blue certainly remembered it, and he then proceeded to give us all the graphic details.
You would remember it.
Yeah, I mean, it was possibly that it was that mental image that led the influencers to make him the first contestant to be blocked.
Yeah, they didn't mention that, but really, it could have been a subconscious thing. You don't want someone locked in the same block of flats shitting himself all the time, do you?
Chucking it out the window, a la lorry drivers from the M25.
Yeah, it's an interesting image. What amazes me, though, about the whole thing is that any of this motley lot, and I'm using motley in its real meaning of varied, incongruously varied in appearance and character. Somehow motley seems to have come to signify mangy.
Yeah.
Or messy or malformed.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm amazed that any of them think that will.i.am is in this show. I mean, he's not, obviously, for those who don't watch it, but two DJs from Radio 1 are pretending somewhat
poorly, I would say,
to be him. Surely will.i.am is a step above this lot on the celebrity ladder.
Well, it's incredible, Robin. If you go through the actual cast list of celebrity, I mean, Duncan from Blue, bag of chips, yeah? Denise Van Outen. I mean, unless you're in your 50s or 60s, Denise Van Outen is not going to ka-ching as a young person, is it?
No, I mean, Leisha's beginning to qualify because she's never off the telly at the moment, so you are going to be well known, aren't you?
Yeah, okay.
But then you've got the young YouTube influencer, Saffron Rice or whatever she's called.
Barker.
I mean, she didn't know who any of the older ones were.
Well, exactly. And then you've got Pete Wicks and Sam Thompson, who are from Towie and Made in Chelsea.
Oh, they are a great double act, that too. They're very funny.
They are brilliant.
And the Chelsea bloke's so dim-witted, it's unbelievable.
Well, he's amazing, Robin, because he reminds me of a Labrador in that he has no idea what's going on, because Pete's machinations are quite intriguing. But he's just there wagging his tail, just happy to be in the room.
What I'm saying is, why would will.i.am get himself cooped up with this lot?
Absolutely.
Surely it's a gimme that he's a fake.
Absolutely.
Well, we need to see what happens. I mean, it's only halfway through, and we have podcasted in the circle before, and it's impossible to keep up. So why bother? I wondered if they were going to parachute someone in halfway through, and they did.
Yes.
Although it's just another reality person, isn't it?
Charlotte Crosby.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see if Piers Morgan could get in there, mate.
Well, that would be good, because he's needing a bit of a boost for his image, isn't he?
He is.
He could catfish as Nicholas Witchell.
Mind you, maybe Nicholas Witchell could make an appearance, because it was suggested that, Prince Philip had a surgical procedure there the other day. Apparently that was to have Witchell removed from his backside.
Yes, I heard that. So Witchell's free now, isn't he? It's not always been that way with Witchell, though. Apparently in 2002, because I did a bit of research here, he wrote an obituary of Princess Margaret.
God bless her.
Yeah, and it was screened immediately after her death was announced. Well, it would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah, think about it.
Why did they put that? I might cut that out later. Anyway, this obituary...
I'd leave it in, Robin, if I was
It was reportedly not well received at the palace.
No.
He mentioned her lovers.
What?
And her, quote, copious consumption of whiskey.
Well, at least it wasn't copious lovers.
I think the copious lovers was implied.
Ooh, okay.
I mean, what is well received at the palace these days?
Not much.
They don't get many pleasant gifts, do they? The guy in the Irish Times the other day was very good. Perhaps the Queen should have laid more eggs.
What, he said?
Surely, yeah, well, he said a proper queen lays all the eggs in the hive. The Queen's only laid 4. A few more and there'd have been better range of opportunities for socialisable humans.
Oh dear, that's shocking.
Did you see that interview thing with Meghan and Harry the other day?
I watched the highlights, Robin.
Yeah, we were well ahead in that, all the avocado stuff and what have you. Anyway, what I really loved was the way Oprah Winfrey was talking about the Queen. She would sort of pause and say, yeah, and this is the Queen.
Whoa.
In that sort of American way. Sort of a mixture of like, why have they got a Queen anyway? And also to distinguish her from Nicki Minaj or Aretha Franklin for the Americans.
What I did find amazing about it was that the viewing figures over there were off the scale. Wasn't it like 100 million, more than the Super Bowl, basically?
Well, yeah, but when you have the shocking stuff like the thing about the royal family inquiring about what sort of tinge young Archie would have when he made his way out of the warmth of the Californian womb into its overcast skies of royalist Britain. They were probably just thinking ahead, the royals, weren't they?
Absolutely.
How would he get on in a public vote for Dancing on Ice?
I think he'd do well now.
They're very media savvy these days, the royals. They've got a sort of ease with TV, haven't they?
Yes.
They're comfortable with it. Look at Andrew's sweatless interview with Emily Maitlis. You can't blame them for thinking about new ways to modernise the organisation.
I was just thinking what you said there about how the royals would get on Dancing on Ice, and I wouldn't rate Archie's chances that well. Not just because obviously as a baby he might struggle to lace up his skates.
I don't think any of it matters. It's just tough shit for them now. 'Cause instead of Archie growing up to be the Earl of Dumbarton, did you know that's what he'd be?
No.
Obviously completely logical. I actually heard someone on the radio the other day calling in to demand that he keeps the title of the Earl of Dumbarton.
I like that.
Obviously not someone from Dumbarton. But he's not going to be that, is he? He's going to be the new Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Actually, that's a very tired cliche.
I like it, though.
I've even said it already. He'll be the king of the streets of Compton.
Oh.
That was a Mail headline, wasn't it, about Meghan?
No.
Brackets almost straight out of Compton.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Do you think he'll be a blood or a crip?
That's a tough one. What shade of blood or crip?
Well, it's not important to the royal family, isn't it? Any colour is good. Did you not see Prince William there?
I did. I felt sorry for him.
They're very much not a racist family. I like that very much. Just as well he got those words in the right order and he didn't say not very much a racist family. It was a brilliant question from that reporter. It was just like the Father Ted, I hear you're a racist now, Father. He said, can you just let me know, is the royal family a racist family, sir? What society are we living in where someone even needs to suffix that question with the word sir? This is a problem with Britain, this ridiculous deference.
Well, and I guarantee you, well, what I do guarantee, Robin, is that reporter won't be there today.
How can they be racist anyway? For example, you know, the Queen's often hung about with Sheikh Mohammed.
Oh dear.
Probably wishes she'd got some parenting lessons off him.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Yes, anyway, on that colourful note, we seem to have got off Dancing on Ice.
We have.
And the circle, so we should probably get off the air.
Exactly.
Yeah, and say thanks very much for listening.
Yeah, cheers.
Sean, what are you going to promise that we'll be back to talk about next time?
I'm promising honey. How's it go? Honey, wine?
Honey, grapes and wine.
Honey, grapes and wine. That's what I'm promising for next week.
Good. Well, that's what Michael Gove promised us. And as soon as the import-export problems are sorted out of the border, that's what we're going to be getting. Until then, good night and goodbye and good luck.
Cheers for that.
Bye.